we haven't talked yet about this pandemic that, is disrupting the entire world. That's a big change from your time reporting, when you could go down to the border and cross with families and, all of these intrepid, trips that you took. How's that changed what you're able to do and your visibility into these women's lives now?
It's very difficult to cover these topics not face to face because there's a big element of trust and a big element of just like someone who's experienced PTSD, like they just need to see you and feel your vibe and know that you're safe. So I don't think I could have done those stories from a distance, or that I could have done them in 2020. It's been incredibly limiting. I mean, I still covered, the pandemic has led to yet another increase in domestic violence and femicides. And I've been able to cover that and talk to women in shelters, but it's not the same when, it's a telephone call. They're sitting next to the shelter director, who knows what they're whispering in their ear because everybody has an agenda. They can't really see your face. They can't, and so the conversations are just so, I don't want to say shallow because these are not shallow topics, but they're you can't get the depth. And so I've really struggled to work on, to produce stories of the, like of the range and the quality that I expect for myself.
Aren't we all? It's awful, but especially you can see someone like you who was just sort of all over the region, this really broad range. Are you traveling at all now? Are you able to travel at all?
No, just in Mexico and just wherever I can go with my car. But even that feels irresponsible because what if I get someone sick? I can go to a private hospital. I will probably be okay. The people I'm talking to, if I get them sick, they don't have the same means. So it just feels incredibly like exploitative. And irresponsible, and I don't know. I really struggle with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we do have a question now. It's come in. So how much do you weigh the risk on your life when you do these stories? Do you prepare yourself before you go on a journey, talk with family members about the risk? And have you ever decided not to do a story because it's too risky? That's a question from someone in the
audience. How do I weigh the risk? That's a question.
Yeah. How do you weigh the risk on your own personal risk as you undertake these, and how do you prepare for it? Do you talk to your family? Do they, are there?
That question?
Yeah, right.
Because I see her in the participants. Yeah,
it is anonymous, so.
Well, they don't love what I do, and it's had an impact on me picking less dangerous stories. I mean, even this series was less dangerous than what I was doing before. That actually got me into physical trouble and like a very horrifying, life-threatening situation that was awful. And after that, I just saw the impact it had on my family to see me try to recover from that. And so I've chosen stories that they may still be like very emotionally heavy, but they're not as dangerous. So, going to El Salvador in jail, it's not as dangerous as going, into a civil war or something, or a civil conflict. And so
but there's crossing a raft in the, middle of the night with armed guards meeting you on the other side. So yeah, it's maybe we get inured.
That beats you up.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I've been picking less risky stories, even if they're still risky, and we mitigate risks. I mean, we have a really good team at BuzzFeed, and I always go with a photographer. Sometimes it's another woman photographer, sometimes it's another, it's a man, and it depends on what the story is about, and it depends on the risk. Like there was a very specific reason why we picked Daniele for the story across Guatemala following Brenda, because it wouldn't have made sense for two women to do that, because we'd be getting smuggled across borders. And so, that's one mitigation. I'm always getting tracked by our security team. We try to change hotels, you know, if it's several nights in the same small town. Obviously, I wear very baggy clothes and a hat, and I don't shower for days, and I just try to blend in, and, you know, all the mitigation that we can do is there. And then have I decided not to do stories? Yeah, so something bad happened in Nicaragua. And it was at the beginning of the trip, and then I decided I'm gonna stay, and I want the story even more than ever before because I'm so pissed. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, no, I want to go home, and like it's too dangerous. And I, you know, I'm sure you understand, I felt just like very weak telling my editors that I couldn't do it, and they were really supportive, but you always stay with this feeling of like, should have just been a little stronger just for a couple more days, and then you can break when you get home. But I don't know.
I don't know. I think you're quite a bit younger than me, and I'm kind of over that now. Now I'm like, I don't want to go home. It is. You know, you always, even just at the Capitol, storming at the Capitol, you know, it's like, do you go in with the mob? Do you stay outside? Do you stay? I, in the end, didn't. And I still, so I guess I still have that nagging feeling of how far do you push it? How far do you push it? And I really mentioned the Capitol because I also want to remind people that these dangers, especially for women journalists, are global. And including this country. Actually, someone's asking a question about gender. While covering a region with lots of complicated gender dynamics, you know, do you navigate any challenges that arise from that? It's the woman question. What's it like to be a woman covering those issues? I'm sure, you know, in some ways it seems that you've had incredible access. Do you feel that trust comes from
I think that access, woman to woman? Yeah, that access for this series that we're talking about, I think a big part of it is because I'm a woman. I can't see, you know, some macho reporter going in and trying to talk to a 12-year-old girl and her feeling safe. You know, I think, although, I mean, the photographer I worked with in Guatemala, he made our source feel, or our main character, Brenda, feel incredibly safe, probably maybe safer than I did. So, but I think that, you know, it definitely has its downsides where there's a lot more planning because there's just a lot more risk, and that's a fact. So there's more planning going into it. You know, I make sure not to be out at night if I can help it. Can't always be helped, like in certain locations. Try to never be alone with a fixer, with a male fixer, because it's already gone wrong. But, you know, the silver lining is that it gets you access to these stories that need to be told and don't get told because there aren't enough women reporters covering them.
I often find that, you know, and I'm not saying that the questioner was asking in that way, but sometimes that question is asked with the implicit thing behind it of, it must have been so hard for you as a woman. And I found in a lot of cases, including in the Middle East, especially in the Middle East, it's actually been a help because you are getting access to, you know, I don't know, a certain different kind of power, a different kind of agency than you see when you're just interviewing a lot of the male sort of ruling authorities. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, even this machismo helps a little bit because they think that you're dumb and they think that you don't know shit. And so they say more than they intend to because you probably don't understand.
That's right.